Hi, I'm Liz McCaw. I'm the author of the blog Nature Play on Vancouver Island, and I'm also the author of a book, Outside Our Window, Developing a Primary Nature Program. And so lots of people have asked me, what does your room look like in September? So I thought I would make my first video. So this is my classroom. So I'm going to begin in the hall. So we have a wall that we use to showcase student learning on Story Workshop. So I begin the year with story play where they're telling oral stories using loose parts, lots and lots of wonderful different kinds of loose parts, and I set up the provocations in the morning before they come to school, and then they just go and they add on to it and work with a friend to create a story. Later in the year they start to write their stories and draw their stories, and sometimes I'll take photographs and then they'll narrate their stories while I scribe, and that all goes on this wall. The wall beside it, this is our art gallery, and this is, as you can see, last year's children left some gifts for our new kinders, and this is where children can work on different art pieces independently, and then they'll decide, oh, they want to come and put it on the art wall. We'll take something down and send it home and put something new up. And I intentionally do not have a class set. I just want it to be a showcase, so it's not a must-do activity. It's totally by choice. Sometimes children do art activities and they want to take it home that same day, but they still want to display it. So these are some gifts left by my last year students for my new students, and this is from our art atelier. And this is a clothesline, and so all they do is they come out and they put it on the clothesline. And at the end of the day, when they're all ready to go home, they just nip out into the hallway, get their art, and then take it home with them that day. On this wall, this is our documentation panel wall, and this was my first big panel that I did last year. So when I went to Italy, I really focused on documentation, and so I came home and using Word, I created this and then got it printed. But it's really too small, but I'm still proud of the writing I did and the photos of the children at work, and I'll just give you a little close-up, and it's about story play. And so I just had student voice and different places where they do story play, and some quotes from the children, and photographs of their art. And so this year when I do it, my husband knows how to use Photoshop, and so that way when I print it, they can print a much larger panel for me, and that'll probably stay up for a couple of years. Over here is where we usually do our inquiry wall. So this is where we do our wonders, and we start to put up our documentation panel, so it's like a living wall. But since it was blank, I decided to just put up an art panel that my students did last year with 2 other classes. And we actually made a large mural for our library just to add some cheerfulness and some color and some student work to the room. And this is the panel that I got to keep. Isn't it beautiful? So into the classroom. So this is, I'm just going to scan, and then I'll talk about just a few parts of the room. So you can see it's a large kindergarten classroom, and so our district has a minimum square footage for a kindergarten, and so my classroom meets that. It looks really spacious because there's not too much furniture and everything's low. And it gives a real sense of openness. In the fall I have lots of small, intimate areas for the children, and then as the year goes on, I take some furniture away and create larger spaces. I don't do a traditional calendar, but just like families, we have a calendar where we keep important information, like what day is family potluck, what day are we going to take the city bus to Neck Point, just things that are important to the children. And as I scan around, I want you to notice this lovely space that I inherited. So it used to be all closed-in teacher space, but I took the doors off to make it accessible to children. Up above was a project that the children worked on last year. This was a playful literacy inquiry where they learned about, played with letters and letter names and letter sounds and words. And at the end of the project, we did a celebration by using some of our loose parts to create a visible wall. So that's there. This is the drum that was gifted to me from Tillicum for some consulting work I did for them. And I use it every day to transition the children from one activity to another. This is some work that we do that's inspired by Rebecca Bathurst Hunt from Victoria, and she talked about spirit animals and what we could learn from them, and so I use her as inspiration. And so it takes about 2 months for us to really learn about the character traits of these animals, and then once we do that, then the children will come and they'll take a bead and they'll decide where do I want to put this today? What do I want to learn from which animal? And they'll put the bead. And sometimes a child will come during the day and they'll take their bead and they'll move it to another animal because they've changed their mind. Or they'll take a second bead and put it by a second animal, and they'll want to continue to work on both those goals. So it's a private, personal goal setting, where they're intentional about what they want their focus to be. So it takes a few months for them to learn that. This wall is left blank right now, and this is where our first family project is displayed, and it stays all year. This is where it lives. And what the children do is they fill a bag with glass beads, buttons, plastic beads, wooden beads, pipe cleaners, and they go home and they do a beading. So here's an example. Couple of examples. So this is one from last year, and here's another. So those children, you can see this one looks completely different, and they get a little card and they write a note to their children, the parents, their hopes and dreams for their school year. And so this is the teacher corner, and this is where I have all my prep prepared for upcoming lessons and my assessment. And then if I scooch around, this is my light table, but it's not available in September, and so I've just done a little science provocation. And then of course the storyboard. This beautiful area is where, if I'm doing storytelling in the classroom, this is where I would do it, and circle talk and play, and children reading with friends, looking at books. It's a lovely space, right beside a beautiful sunny window with a view of the ocean and the primary playground in the forest. And then behind that, we've got some small play. So right now I have a dollhouse because that would be familiar for them. In October, I'll take that out and put a low table with just loose parts, and I'll do story play, maybe with forest animals or sea animals. This corner here is our atelier, so it's about 25% of the room. It's quite a mess right now. Still cleaning. And this is where the children will do clay and watercolor painting and sculpture and collage, Play-Doh, stamping. We had a paint easel given to us last year, and so we added that. And we've got a really nice storage that was donated to us last year. And this is where we keep our clay and our poster paints and our various brushes. This is our sensory table. This is our health center, and what I love about this is that it's expandable. So if a lot of friends go there to play, they can move it right out. There's about another 10 feet that they can take, and they can move some of the benches over, and they can set it up for play. It's really a popular area. And if a child needs a bit of quiet, then we have a small tent that just accommodates 2 children, and they can go in there and snuggle with some animals and look at some books until they feel that they want to come out again and interact with the larger group. And this is our other bookshelf. You may notice I have a lot of mirrors in the room. They're actually plexiglass, and they're just to reflect light and to expand the space and make it feel a little bit bigger. So that's our classroom in the fall. So I'll just do a scan around. You can see there's a little bit of loose parts everywhere. There's our counting jars. So they're just going to start just with small numbers, maybe up to 30. all the way from 3 and 4, and we'll introduce that routine. There we go, all the way around. It's really a beautiful space.